G'day guys, welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Thursday, February 20th, 2025. And geez, what an eventful day it was yesterday. A very controversial day over there in Saudi Arabia. Shakur, Stevenson and Floyd Schofield. I'll get to that in a sec. Lots happening over there, lots of accusations, lots of news since it all happened. Again, I'll get to that in a sec. But first of all, the massive news yesterday, the groundbreaking news that rocked Australian boxing. Jeff Fenech working with Tyson Pedro, and oh my God, what's Brock Jarvis going to think about this? All over the news. Well, not all over the news, was it? It was Brendan Bradford and Peter Bedell with the news that rocked Australian boxing. And I don't know about you, but I barely slept a wink last night thinking about how Brock Jarvis felt about Jeff Fenech training Tyson Pedro. But there was a twist in it. Apparently it might still be back on. After all that groundbreaking news yesterday, they actually did what they maybe should have done in the first place and actually ask Brock Jarvis for a comment. And you know what Brock said? I don't care. Jeff works with lots of fighters. Why would I care that he's working with another fighter? Totally different circumstances to what he's doing with Brock. So as Peter Bedell and Brendan Bradford tried to make out that Jeff Fenech was almost like a cheating wife or something on Brock Jarvis, heaven forbid doing some work with Tyson Pedro. Apparently they had dinner together and it's all good between the two, but even more so, Jeff still says there might be a possibility. Now, I doubt it. I think what he was more referring to, that he's going to be sitting ringside, and he said, look, if it gets into the cut and thrust of the fight, that he knows you might jump in the ring and use tuxedo and jump in the corner. I think that's sort of what he meant. But it sort of blows his whole theory out of the water about this alleged feud between the two when they were out for dinner and discussing it all. And look, Jeff's problem or issue, I think, with the whole thing is that the fact he just hasn't been there for the camp. Now, whatever reason that is, I don't know. There's lots of rumours flying around, but I'm not going to get into all that. But whatever reason it is, he hasn't worked a lot with Brock Jarvis, and that's why he's saying, look, I don't feel comfortable jumping in and being in the corner, because he did say that he likes to, with his other fighters, before they get in the ring, a bit of a ritual he has. He likes to hug them or embrace them or whatever and say, hey, we've done the work, you've done the sacrifice, done everything right, now get in there and get the job done. And he said he's just not going to be able to do that with Brock Jarvis. And it does make a bit of sense. And if you're not familiar with, if you haven't been in a boxing ring or been a trainer or whatever, it's probably hard to explain the sort of bond you get with your fighter. And in this case, the bond you don't get much stronger than what Jeff and Brock have had. So I've got no dramas with Jeff saying, look, I don't feel comfortable jumping in the corner 2 weeks out or 3 weeks out or whatever it's been, and just saying, look, Brock, I wish you all the best, but I'm not going to be in the corner on fight night. Come here, man. Got some kangaroos there. So that earth-shattering news yesterday was a little bit unfounded. They are good, and apparently they will continue to be friends, maybe work together in the future, but that was the latest twist on it yesterday. Come here, Ben. Come on. Jeez, he's been difficult today. There you go, buddy. Good boy. All right, so on to some other news. And look, who knows if that will have more chapters in this story with Brock Jarvis and Jeff Fenech. But I'm just glad they're on good terms, and who knows, they might work together down the track. All right, on to Saudi Arabia. Now, yesterday, if you weren't across it, I'm sure you were or are, that Floyd Schofield pulled out of his fight with Shakur Stevenson, alleging being poisoned. Now, the interesting thing with this, there was Floyd Schofield did some interviews just hours before he pulled out. Now, there were some suspicions about what might be happening with Floyd when he didn't attend the grand arrivals the night before. Now, Eddie Hearn actually made a really good point. Over there, the British Boxing Board of Control actually control the fights in Saudi Arabia, and part of it is that I think it's a day or 2 days, whatever it is, before the actual weigh, and you've got to hit a certain mark again, and it catches a lot of fighters out. Now, you would have thought that in the contracts and in the negotiations and whatever it might be, just the general information of going over there to fight, they would say or advise or inform the teams that you might be required, or you will be required, to hit a weight mark 2 days before the actual weigh-in. Now, whether Floyd Schofield knew about that or not, who knows? But Eddie Hearn did make a point that he might have been making weight the night of the grand arrivals and didn't attend, and there's no problem with that. The grand arrivals are just a quick thing for the fans and a bit of media and just another thing for fight week. So I got no dramas if the undercard fighters miss that. I mean, especially if they're being forced to make weight. So I haven't got any issues with that. But then the next day, he did some interviews, as I said, in the morning or afternoon, whatever it was, a few hours. I'm not quite sure the time difference over there. Seemed all good. And then a couple of hours later, was allegedly in a hospital with what they say might be poisoning. Now, this is where the plot thickens, because Floyd Schofield's dad put on X that his son had been poisoned by what he thought was maybe a lady who massaged Floyd Schofield, also worked with Shakur Stevenson, and the cream or ointment or whatever the hell they use might have had something in it that made him violently ill. Now, when they said he was in hospital, apparently he only went there. I think Oscar De La Hoya released a statement about it because he, of course, promotes Floyd Schofield. But apparently he went to hospital and it was just a precautionary thing, and he was out in a couple of hours. So they sort of tried to blow up that, he's been poisoned, he's violently ill, he's in, and all this sort of stuff. But he was only in there for a couple of hours and he was released. So who knows what's happened. There was lawsuits being threatened by Shakur Stevenson's team about slander or whatever you might want to call it. So there's bound to be some more to happen with this. But in the meantime, Shakur Stevenson has a new opponent. Josh Padley is his name. I think he's 15-0 with 4 knockouts. So not a big puncher from Britain. Capable, but let's just say not at the level of Shakur Stevenson. Look, at this late stage, does it really matter? I think they want to do the right thing by getting Shakur Stevenson on the card, and the fact that they've done this on about 3 days' notice, it's a pretty good effort. Now, they might have had him on standby or whatever, but that also poses another question. You've got fighters on standby so close to the fight, ready to go. Yeah, I don't know. Do you think that maybe there's been some consultation between the two, or some conversations or whatever it might be between the parties, that Floyd Schofield is really struggling to make the weight and is not sure whether he's going to be able to do it? And they have Josh Padley on standby, ready to go, and they flicked a switch, and we have a new opponent in Josh Padley. Look, I don't think there's anything untoward in it. I just think maybe there's covering their bases, and had Padley on standby. Maybe Eddie Hearn and even Oscar De La Hoya. I mean, I know he promotes Schofield, but maybe just the organisers and Eddie Hearn might have just said to Padley, stay fit, stay ready. And because we think there might be something untoward going with Floyd Schofield, he's going to struggle to make the weight. And if he does pull out, and there's been accusations all the way through from Shakur Stevenson that he didn't think Schofield would make the weight, that maybe they were just waiting, and then Schofield has got to the Wednesday weigh-in and just said, look, I'm not going to be able to make the weight, and they've pulled him. Not sure where the poisoning thing comes into it, though. I don't know why. Maybe, look, obviously, if that's the case, Schofield's team mightn't have been in on it. Maybe it was just Eddie Hearn and Turkey LSG covering the bases, but you would think that Schofield probably did have every intentions to make it. And then when they didn't, maybe the fact that he was sick by trying to make the weight has been the issue. Not any poisoning or anything like that. Maybe the fact he just couldn't make weight. And they've just decided to pull him. And because he's become ill by trying to make weight, now they've got these accusations going everywhere. But never a dull moment in boxing, is there? Especially with Schofield's team, has for a young kid, they have been pretty vocal, and obviously him and Shakur Stevenson have had a lot of tension in the build-up as well. So we'll see. But either way, the fight card goes on. Now, speaking of the fight card, there was a reporter that made a point yesterday, and I just tended to agree that the buzz for this card I don't think it's anywhere near what the first fight was, but just in general, I know there's been a lot of publicity and it's all over all the websites and social media pages and everything like that, but I don't know, just for me, the excitement's not there. I can't wait for the card to see the fight and the undercard and everything else, but the buzz for the main event is not there. And the reporter made a pretty good point. He said that, is it maybe that the undercard is so good that it's actually taken a bit of the luster away from the main event? And it's not a bad point. I think we're all more talking about this time the card. It's all about the card, the greatest card in history, the most stacked card in history, and I can't wait to see the card. Last time it was all about, hey, better Beav and Bivol. Who gives a shit about the undercard? I can't even remember who was on the undercard last time. I think Jai might have been on there, but I can't remember because it was all about the main event. And this time, all everyone is talking about is the fight card itself. So maybe they've just outsmarted themselves just a little bit. Now, at the end of the day, it probably doesn't matter. It's not going to do anything. I think everyone's still looking forward to seeing the main event, but it just hasn't had that same build-up and the buzz that the first fight had. And rematches can sometimes be like that as well. I don't think the Fury and Usyk rematch was as hyped and built up as the first fight either, and it's just the way it happens. So you get the exceptions, of course, when you get a fight like maybe back in the day with Tyson and Holyfield. That was a massive build up for the rematch, and you know some others along the journey, of course, but yeah, this time I don't know. What about you? I just haven't felt it. I'm sure on Sunday morning it might be a little bit different when the two fighters walk out. Now, the other thing to remember too, these guys aren't the most out there, exciting, eccentric fighters. You know, there's been no build-up as far as trash talking goes. There's been no controversy with the fighters. They've all been nice and polite and everything else, and maybe that's got something to do with it. Didn't worry us in the first fight though, did it? But maybe that's got something to do with it as well, that both guys have just been probably a little too well behaved, and they've been very complimentary of each other, so we're just not used to it. But yeah, I don't know, it's just a feeling I get that the reporter's not far off the mark when he says that. Just this time it's just not the same. Let's hope the fight blows all that away and we have a beauty. The first fight too, remember, wasn't the most exciting fight. It was very technical, just a fight between two great fighters who were very respectful of each other, very cautious of each other, and maybe that had something to do with it as well. Why we're not all talking about this war number two that might ensue. So anyway, either way, I mean, I don't care what they say. We're still looking forward to the card, aren't we? All right, on to some other stuff. Now again, I had to write a few things down because I've just got rid of that there. I've deleted it. Doesn't matter. Now, I did see, what was the other thing I saw? Floyd Mayweather is looking to maybe buy the New York Giants into that. That's something you don't see every day. It's apparently $700 million they're buying, or they're selling the New York Giants for. So he's looking to buy into that. So another venture for Floyd. And on Floyd, I saw an article about him as well yesterday. They're still talking about the fight with Pacquiao, or the rivalry, if I can spit that out, with Manny Pacquiao 10 years after they actually fought. And then, of course, there was the build-up of probably 5 or 6 years before that. And there's still comparisons going on between the two. Who was better? Who had the better career? All this sort of stuff. And it was actually noted, I never actually knew this. I knew they both fought a lot of world champions, but come here, man. Apparently, well, not apparently, it's fact, but there's always, I think it might have been Leonard Allaby actually was the one that brought it up, that Mayweather had fought more and beaten more world champions than Manny Pacquiao. And Floyd had, was it 20, I think he's beaten 24 25 actual world champions. This is without rematches, by the way. Actual fighters, 25. No, sorry, it was a little bit less than that. It might have been 23, sorry. And Manny Pacquiao was 20. So, yeah, sorry. So Mayweather was 22. Pacquiao might have been 21, or the other way around. No, 23 for Mayweather, 22 for Pacquiao in actual world champions fought. I think I've got that right. But as far as if you count rematches in or between the two, then it's actually Manny Pacquiao that has had more wins against world champions. So it's an interesting fact that they're so close in their career, even so long after their careers are over. Well, who knows if Manny's is over because he's still talking about fighting. But I think that's right. Yeah. So 23 for Mayweather, 22 for Pacquiao. But if you include the actual rematches that they had against certain fighters, then it's actually Pacquiao that's had more wins over world champions. So isn't that just amazing that they've fought so many world champions and beaten so many world champions? I mean, you go through the resumes. I think I might have actually done a video about this at one stage, about who had the better career. I think I did. Now, I still think Floyd Mayweather had the better career because of all the fighters they fought, the legendary fighters they fought and beat. End of the day, Floyd Mayweather still came out undefeated, where Manny Pacquiao had 8 losses or whatever it was. And the fact that Floyd Mayweather actually beat Manny Pacquiao when they fought. So that's why I'm giving Floyd Mayweather the tick over Manny. But you look at, I mean, there's the argument as well, is that with Manny, at least Manny fought peak fighters at the peak constantly, yep, and he lost a few along the way, but Floyd always sort of picked and chose his mark. Doesn't matter for me. I'm still picking Floyd Mayweather as the superior fighter, the superior career, and in my opinion, in the top 5 fighters of all time, pound for pound. That's my opinion. But it's interesting that all these years later, they're still going head to head and comparing records, comparing things like this as far as who fought and beat more world champions. Who knows, maybe they might even have an exhibition rematch down the track. There has been talk about that as well, hasn't there? So there you go. So guys, I had a couple other things to talk about there, but I can't remember what they were. I've sort of waffled on enough about a couple of things, so I'm sure that will do for today. But guys, 3 days to go. Are you getting excited for Bivol and Better Beav and the undercard? And do you agree that maybe the fact that there's too many great fights on the undercard, it's taken away a little bit of the shine of the main event? Anyway, either way, it doesn't matter, does it? So guys, have a great Thursday and we will catch you tomorrow.